You guys ready for more punishment? Because we are. It's it's our draft. I mean, it's nothing but punishment. Constantly trying to trade up, or being on the clock and having to cancel all of the picks, or being on the clock multiple times and feeling like you're Flynn Rider. I mean, I always want to feel like I'm Flynn Rider. The man's handsome as hell, and who doesn't want to be Eugene Levy? I'm not Eugene Levy. What was his name? He was in Chuck. Anyways, I'll think of it later. RJ, you're quite a handsome man. You have to deal with these kind of things. What are your thoughts about being always constantly under attack and under siege by people who want a piece of you?
Uh, it's fun to be wanted sometimes, but it can be exhausting.
It's true. It's true. But, tough life. Um, speaking of tough life, a lot faster than I think round one, but we've made it through round two and we've moved into round three. So good job, everybody. So we thought it was time to jump back on here as we normally do after the second round, go through pick by pick, talk about picks we liked, picks we didn't. Since the players are going to be a little bit less well known than some of their first round counterparts, we may not have as much to say, but nonetheless, I think we'll still have plenty of stuff to talk about. We're not going to skip over folks as much as we do in probably some of the later rounds, as we group some of those things to try and get through those picks faster. But I think it'll be a good conversation. So maybe we'll even get a few other teams to join us as we go. I think we made it up to the two. Was it the 202 or the 203 last time, RJ? Do you recall?
I believe. Let me see. Why can't I find out? Um, we saw the Mafe pick, we saw the Christian Harris pick, and we were in post when the Tolbert pick happened, I believe.
Okay. So it was the 205. So we'll go ahead and go with that. So at the 205, it's Falcons moving up to get Jalen Tolbert. I believe I made the mistake of actually bringing him up on the pod. So again, for those who are hoping to move up or let him fall, it's my fault. I'm sorry. It's bad form. I'll drink for stupid. But I like the pick. With Cooper gone, there's a path to the third receiver there. Obviously, others think, he may be fourth and have to work his way up to it, but he's definitely become I'd say, darling in the analytic community. A little bit pre-draft, but especially based off landing spot, post-draft, and draft capital. So really like the pick. It's someone who I definitely would have taken in this range. So of course Falcon gets him, and just I immediately have to hate the guy.
Yep. I mean, I like the pick. Both of us are going to talk very highly of this pick because we were quite aware of him. I'd say roughly a year ago. I know we did discuss him, went over some very grainy YouTube videos at that point, and we were both we thought very highly of him. Um, so yeah, fantastic. Wasn't necessarily thrilled with the landing spot, but talent's gonna win out. He's probably gonna be the wide receiver 3, and progress from there.
Yeah, and again, it's not a bad thing to be. The offense seemed to be able to support three receivers: Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb when they're healthy. Obviously, Schultz emerging may push him to fourth in the pecking order, which may not be the position you definitely want to be in. But he's got a very clear path to points his rookie season, which at the beginning of the second round, and with the depth that Falcons has, is all you're asking for of a player in that position.
Yeah, that's true. And to your point, there were a couple of people that were that that third target, that pseudo wide receiver 3 in Dallas, different at different points throughout the year, and they all gained some value. So maybe he can stay healthy and just be as valuable as all three of them.
Moving on down, next pick. Um, so it's a lot of fun when you're right. It's a lot of fun to victory lap when you're right. Some people are better than others at it. Some people do it privately. Some people do it in front of the entire league and clamor for praise when they do it. I like to think of myself as confident enough in my process that I'm happy to do it when I'm wrong. So pre-draft, when we were doing the draft pick projections and mock drafts, Matt Carroll was one that came up as invited to the first round, I thought. And I said, wait, he's got an invitation to the first round. He's got to have a promise. He's going to the first round with a promise for the team. That's why he hasn't worked out as much. That's what's going on. That's my call on this. I was very wrong. He wasn't a first-round pick or a second-round pick. I believe he was a supplemental third-round pick, if I recall correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand and say, my bad. That being said, he goes to the Seahawks, who already have Sam Darnold, who he should be the number 2 behind, while also having Zach Wilson, whose situation improved dramatically. So in the Seahawks position where he's going to probably move a quarterback or two before he's back to being a competing team, it's ammo for the arsenal. So it allows him to say if somebody wants to overpay for Zach Wilson or give him multiple firsts for Zach Wilson, move off him, especially if he has a really good year with Moore and Davis and Wilson and the weapons that they got in this draft. So I really like the pick. I think it's a good fit for the right team. Might be a little early to take the player, but I can't fault the guy for doing so.
I would have expected him to drop a little bit further, but I have no issues with Seattle taking him. That's Darnold's backup. I kind of like Corral a little bit better than Darnold. But he has the starter for 2 franchises in the NFL on his roster, and that's fantastic.
Yep. So again, as is our tradition, when picks come in, we'll pause what we're doing and announce the pick. So with the 302, or as the 303, or the third pick in the third round, as some would say, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Cameron Thomas, defensive end from Arizona. So, again, I need to pull up the draft screen here so I can do a little bit better job of commenting on some of these folks as we get deeper. But a DN on Arizona is likely going to be the 3-4, so may not be the most, I would say, disruptive player from a tackle for loss or otherwise. But taken relatively high in the draft, so I don't hate the pick. I mean, especially at the top of the third round. What do you think, RJ?
So at the time, it's at least in my opinion on my list as the best defensive end available. So that's fine. Probably a little bit early. I really didn't expect like this tier of guys to start moving early third, but it's fine.
Yeah, and again, more of a run defender, but has a clear path to get on the field, especially with Watt's age and injury history. So I like it. And again, no player in the third round is going to be without their faults. You're either going to get a day 3 offensive player, a blocked defensive player, or secondary. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So take the best of what you can get, frankly.
I mean, there's certainly a path for him to play productive snaps in the NFL. Like that's not impossible.
No. And again, it's all about potential and upside at this point. And I think he's got a path. I don't know, his upside's huge, but the floor should be there.
With the third round picks, since we're not really reviewing them today, it's hard for me to say, whether I really like this pick or if I don't, because I can't you have to see where other people in that tier kind of go.
Right. So before we move on to the next pick,
what's up, guys? I'm here.
What's up?
And he's here early.
I'm here early. I'm here on video. I'm here on just this call. I mean, the only thing that isn't perfect, I joined early. I still have a Qdoba Bowl to work my way through. So,
oh man, Life is good for you.
It's kind of a perfect night.
That it
we're-
sounds like it.
I'm hoping you have a bourbon too.
Later, yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'm
We'll
not going to
definitely
rush
have
you.
one later.
So we were just talking about the pick that just happened, Cameron Thomas. Any rapid fire thoughts?
I haven't watched up to this point. It's probably a little early, like initial thoughts on him. That being said, he's probably in my next tier of defensive ends that come off the board. So I got nothing too critical of that. But I don't know, half round early, maybe not even. But yeah.
All right. Next pick coming up was the 207. David Ojabo, linebacker of Baltimore, going to the Cardinals. What you had just said before Chris joined, RJ, not knowing how you feel about a player. That's Ojabo for me. I'm probably butchering his name, but sue me.
Nope. You're fine.
The edge, I mean, I feel like Baltimore takes edge rushers like Pittsburgh takes wide receivers, that every year Baltimore just pounds their second round pick into who's the player coming off the edge who fell further than they should that we're just going to bring into our system who's going to be a nightmare in 2 years. Like the Steelers used to do this all the time too, back when they had the steel curtain defense and Cowher was there. They would take a linebacker, redshirt him, and then they would just be a pain in everyone's ass for the time going forward from there. And if that's what Baltimore is thinking with Ojabo, I love it. They have Owe, who took probably a year to kind of really grow into himself. If the plan is next year for those two to be your edges on rookie contracts, I mean, God help the AFC North. But I like the talent. The ACL concerns me, but Baltimore's not going to rush him. So for a team like the Cardinals, who traded their first this year, I don't love it, but I love the talent, and I don't think he's going to lose value.
Yeah, I like the player, love the landing spot, love that they're just going to let him kind of sit and heal up, get to 100% because they know what he is like when he's healthy, or what he could potentially do for their team. I don't know if Cardinals was the type of team that was okay with taking the gamble. Not like he has decent linebackers, but I think maybe you go defensive end in that spot, something like that.
Yeah.
So probably just not the player I'd take. I probably would have went for Sam Williams, who went to the Saints a few picks later.
Chris, thoughts?
I thought he was going to keep talking, so I opened a drink.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. I love the player. I love this as a long-term play. This year, he shouldn't be expecting much, if any, help from him. But yeah, I love the pick there. Team fit, like you said, maybe a little questionable, but I'm not going to argue against anyone that ends up with him.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe it's a flip down the road that, there is a linebacker who's overachieving, putting up points, really needs him for the roster, flips the job out for him, and helps solidify a position of potential need. So plenty of opportunity even before the season starts. I realized I've been introducing all of the picks here and talking first, so I'm just going to introduce the pick, and then Chris is eating, so I'll let RJ take the turn talking about here. So the Texans at 208, taking Devonta Wyatt. The one thing I will say is right now, because MFL is in their I'm on crack phase of the defense positional changes, have him listed as a D end. And he might end up lining up as a D end or kind of that D tackle next to a nose tackle position in Green Bay's defense. But that wasn't where he was drafted. I don't think that's where anyone expects him to end up. But for now, hey, you got a defensive end who was a first-round pick at this point in the second round. So, RJ, what do you think?
If he stays a defensive end, and if he plays any amount of snaps as an actual defensive end in Green Bay, we all fucked up. Like we all wasted picks. Like
Yeah.
This guy's gonna be a stud.
Yeah, it's
There's no way he stays at defensive end.
No.
Designated that way, right? Like, there's no way. Unless MFL just skips over him for some reason when they reassign positions closer to the year. But there's no way.
No, I would expect not. We normally see the rookies get changed right around beginning of of training camp. At least the past 2 years, I remember it being like that. So I would fully expect him to be a defensive tackle at that point. If it's a defensive tackle, it's a little early.
It's really early if he's defensive tackle. I mean,
yeah, probably.
I was just going to say, we've discussed taking defensive tackle in this rookie draft before, months leading up to it to solidify the position. And for the most part, we were talking, beginning of third round, late second for that position, not, start of the second for a defensive tackle.
Right.
Unless you're getting like Aaron Donald, son.
Completely agree. I think late second is the earliest that you start touching. You start touching even a highly drafted defensive tackle. They may put up points, but you can find plenty of them. It happens every year. Or you end up using a late first rounder on Ed Oliver, who is a beast, but puts up 100 points a year.
Yep.
Where are we? All right, 209. Brian Robinson to Washington. Colts.
Yes. Yeah. I would have liked this pick a lot better if the player that went right behind him wasn't still on the board.
Yeah.
And I might be, and again, I'm going to be talking about both picks here at the same time, but I thought Pierce should have went a lot closer to when White went, for example, from the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Robinson should be down, about 5 more picks in the list on here. So the fact that those two players went back to back makes me really dislike this Robinson pick compared to the Pierce pick right behind it.
Yep. I agree. I actually had Pierce as my running back, as my fourth running back.
I tried to trade to get Pierce from the 201 and everybody else was trading in, and I was sure he'd be gone on every deal. And then he fell to Chiefs, and then I was sad.
Oh, I wanted him earlier in the second, but
Anyway, sorry, I started talking about Pierce rather than Robinson. I don't dislike Robinson. I think he can carve out a role. I just don't think the value is there for that pick at this point in the draft.
Yeah, that's fair. It's so we don't really know what Robinson's going to be in that offense. It makes me more concerned about Antonio Gibson more than impressed by the landing spot for him.
Mm-hmm. If we look at just this year, I think his role is essentially backup and a breather for Gibson. I think we look past this year, and that's where your doubts about Gibson long term come into play. And if they move on, then hey, suddenly this Robinson pick looks great, especially if they turn the rest of their offense and team around him here.
Yeah. So I don't think it was too early, but Probably one pick too early.
Yep.
So we talked about Pierce. Do you want to say anything more about Pierce?
I think somebody put in chat that summed it up nicely, saying he's going to be a good player in a potential easy path to playing time, which is obviously ideal for running back, especially when you're in the second round here. You're just looking for a guy that gets the opportunities. I think he has a very good shot of scoring more than Robinson, more than probably White even this year. So I'm just going up the list through the running backs that were taken prior to him. Yeah, I'd probably put him after James Cook for running backs. I think that's where you had him too, your RB4.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
So,
I had him in a third tier, kind of all by himself.
Yep. Yeah, I like the value. I would have kept trying to trade in for him until he was gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who are the? It's Marlon Mack, if I recall. Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead. Is
Yeah.
that the?
Yep. That's his competition right now.
So,
well, I guess we could put it, if he doesn't seize the majority of carries against those guys, then I mean he's not going to have much value. But right now, the odds look to be in his favor.
Right. Let's all hope that he does exceptionally well, so we don't just see him replaced next year.
which is a valid concern. He's only he was 4th round pick in the real draft. I mean, he's very easily replaceable.
Yep.
It could be, I mean, quick scenario comes to mind is Robinson and them drafting, Etienne, whatever his name is. He's not played for so long, I forgot what his name is.
Etienne.
Yep, Etienne. But that type of thing, coming around draft next year and they draft an early back, new coach in place. But again, we're trying to project something out a year from now, and this year hasn't even started.
Yeah. What about the next pick? 211 Panthers. Channing Tindall. I love this pick.
Okay.
He's gonna start most likely week 1 in Miami.
So who went before? Let me just look who went through. I need more than one screen here. I can't do this on one monitor. So the Jabo, we had Christian Harris that went before him, Quay Walker.
I still think this might be a little bit early. But he is he's probably the top of the linebackers that definitely have a role and have a very strong chance of starting.
So is he going to end up playing? He's going to be inside linebacker based on. Maybe not, because he can blitz, right?
He can blitz.
Okay. I mean, I'm interested in this pick, the player at Miami, because I've got Baker on my team, who they've moved around quite well the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see if they get both these guys on the field at the same time. Who ends up playing more of the,
Baker runs the show now.
Right.
I would fully expect that. The jobs that are threatened by Tindall are Landon Roberts and Van Ginkel.
Yep.
He could easily slot into either of those spots.
But I think if the real life Dolphins, they are going to want to get this guy on the field as much as they can early on. I think, man, I like the pick too. I liked a lot of linebackers in this class, so yeah. It was fun to especially see their landing spots, because I think a lot of them ended up in good spots for the specific player where they've ended up. So I've got a few other IDP drafts coming up, and this guy he's up there on my list.
But I had mentioned it on the previous draft, but this is one of the few draft classes where we said it was really deep, as far as like prospects going into the NFL draft, where landing spots didn't completely ruin that depth in
Yes.
the draft class.
Yep. I'm just taking a look at Panthers' team. Tyndall fits in there very nicely with his linebacking group. I mean, he's already got Roquan heading up the thing. He needed another solid player behind him to kind of step up here. He's got Zadarius, who should be healthy this year. So I like the pick a lot for the Panthers at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I mean he fits what you would want with like your normal construction. You have your consistent like 10 to 15 with Roquan, just fills up the stat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
You have Zadarius as that like monster boom bust, and then you just need somebody that's going to get you a very high floor.
For sure. All right. Zamir White went at 212. And again, I haven't been too critical of a lot of these picks because I like all the players in this range. White's another one I like. Again, maybe not so much this year, but without Jacobs having his 5th-year option picked up, I like this a lot for year 2 and beyond, especially.
That is the major appeal for me. Like he's going to be one of those players that retains pretty much all of his value throughout next off season, regardless of what he does, just because we want to see what happens with Jacobs in the contract.
Yep.
So there's very few players that I honestly think like in the first 2 rounds that really retain their value out of their rookie year, but he's one of those that just on possibilities he will.
Once upon a time, this guy was a top prospect before he, tore everything multiple times over and over again.
Basically lost both of his knees.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think you said it perfectly on him keeping his value from here, which is definitely not a guarantee for anybody else that's been in this range.
I honestly liked a vast majority of these running backs. There's still some that we're going to talk about, but I really like the player. It's just they all have question marks, so it's really hard to like pinpoint the like value, especially in our league. Like, is this too high? Is this too low? Because none of these guys are going to just, oh, he got 1,000 yards in his rookie year. Like will they carve out a role? And it's like I don't know if I'm spending 211 or the 212 on like will he carve out a role when you can grab some starters on defense.
1 second. Going through all my player lists, I realize there's still a player available that I would like to draft. So I need to see who is on the clock and make an offer.
I know who that player is.
No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
So 213 Bills.
Just continue on.
They take Tyler Algier, Atlanta's running back. So this was one of the running backs with kind of a later draft capital. He actually went in the 5th round. This one's playing with fire. I feel like this is similar to the the undrafted free agent that Atlanta had last year. I feel terrible. I liked him last year, and I can't remember his name this year.
Mike Davis?
No, I believe it was Javion Hawkins. No, is that the safety?
No, I know who you're talking about now. Sorry, I'm still trying to put a deal together while you're talking. This is hard.
No, you're fine. I'm waiting for Mike to come back also.
Mike!
So he can save us, so you can actually do your trade. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna let you this is. I don't think it's a terrible pick. I just think it's a bold one. Like, it's 5th round running back. You could just end up on the practice squad.
All right. I got a
At
message sent
213.
off. I need to DM him. All right, I'm back. Kind of. I'm mostly back. Oh, draft pods are fun. I was just going through crossing off my guys as I'm looking through the list. I'm like, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So anyway, back to Algier. I don't know. I'm sure you said enough about him. All right. So moving on to Davis Price at 214 with the Jets. I with Algier and Davis Price, I feel like both these picks could be attributed to a perceived run at the running back position, with Robinson, Pierce, White all going 3 of the 4 picks before them. Because you can take what you said about Algier, and I would apply that to Davis Price as well. I feel this is early for him. And it might be in the minority, but I don't have him in the same tier as even the other running backs that were there. I have him more down towards like the pure Strong Jr., the Ingram picks at 22 and 23 of the second round.
Ty Davis Price.
Yes.
I actually I would have him above Algier. I have him above Brian Robinson.
Okay.
He's very talented. I'm not a huge fan of the landing spot. That's what makes him kind of. He's in that group of like, there's a better player in front of him. You know, you can go through them. Like I personally feel like it was Rashad White, Zamir White, Price, Algier, and Robinson all kind of in that same tier. And it was like there's clearly somebody just better, but will they get an opportunity to at least be, a complimentary role, or maybe spell for an injury?
Yeah. I don't have a real well thought out reason why I have him lower than. Of course, you're going to message me. Yeah. Yep. That's what I was thinking. But I definitely don't like the landing spot, and I wasn't super high on him before he ended up there. So, I don't know. I think there's a very decent shot he doesn't get anything useful out of this pick.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, we're probably at the point where a lot of these guys are not going to be useful. I mean, realistically anyway, but I feel like this was a much more dangerous pick than a lot of the ones that came after it.
At this point, if you are drafting on offense, they are not going. You cannot expect starters. You might not even be able to expect, like role players. You expect guys that are going to be given an opportunity, but like if they don't seize that opportunity, they aren't going to be on the field much. And it's kind of the chances that you take.
Yep.
I have Eno Benjamin. He played like 40 something snaps his first year, and like he was picked in like 208 or something like that.
If someone wants to have a fun activity, go through all the previous years of this league, go to the draft results, look at the points scored for the players, and it's a very sobering exercise to go through and see how much we miss on picks.
James Robinson. We all failed on that one. So,
all right. Sam Williams.
We can't talk about this pick until Mike's back.
All right, we wait for Mike.
It has to be like we have to introduce the Saints.
Oh my God.
Talk all nice about them.
Okay. Let me ping him. Like maybe he's paying attention to chat. It's doomed. He probably went on a liquor store run. That's what happened. He just left us.
I mean, that kind of is an emergency, so got to take care of that first.
No. Yeah, the thing that everybody should know: draft was paused. Chat was obviously unamused. I mean, they amused themselves in some ways, but I avoided chat most of that day when the posts started coming through. But we got our new owner. This is about when Mike shows up. He's not showing up. You and I could both disappear and turn off our videos and mute ourselves for a while till we see him return. Just be the intermission.
That's going to be weird for YouTube. I do have to go to the bathroom, so I say we do that for a second.
And drink break.
Yep.
All right.
What, do you guys go on strike?
We waited so long for you. We were delaying, and you just weren't showing up. I'm still working through my Chipotle bowl. It doesn't Qdoba bowl. This is great tonight. This is exactly what I wanted.
Apologies. Phone call came in. Supposed to be a 5-minute conversation that took 20. So everyone knows how those are. Anyways.
Apologies to everybody if you're hearing me chomp on the video, but I have to eat this and I have to do the pod. So
lifestyle.
You get both. We were waiting for you because we got to the Saints pick at 2:15 or whatever, and RJ wanted to wait for you so we can do the whole we got to introduce the new owner and all that fun stuff.
I appreciate it. So
right,
just a couple of comments on some of the picks that I missed. I like Brian Robinson pick. I think a lot of folks were trying to downgrade Antonio Gibson, but didn't necessarily give Robinson the respect on the other side of that. So I like that. I think Dameon Pierce has a clear path to to a lead back role. Granted, he didn't necessarily seize that when he was in Florida, but the job is clearly open in Houston. Zamir White, Devi Darling falling to the second round of a 32-team draft was probably unthinkable 2 years ago, but here we are. I think
and 2 knee injuries ago.
That'll happen. So that'll happen when all gear. I see the allure, but not a fan. I really like the Jets pick. Again, shocking. Jets continues to make good picks. I think it's a cheap addition of another 49er back. And again, Elijah Mitchell was a 5th-round pick last year. The lead back in that backfield seems to change every year. So putting a mid-second shot on a 3rd-round rookie that they take there, obviously Sermon, Davis, they've had plenty of misses in that range before. His profile looks like a type of player that I think Shanahan's really going to like. But yes, 2:15, so all remembered. We get to Friday. We pause the draft because Saints is on the clock, nowhere to be seen. He's got, 4 or 5 picks in the next 12 to 14. So having that amount of draft capital just go completely to waste. I applaud our commissioners for just saying, let's not have him run the clock out and then do this. Let's just get this fixed right now. So took a little bit, but they got the owner in. I'm very happy with the new Saints so far. Definitely seems to be engaging, seems to be on board with our sense of humor, and frankly, willing to shoot back at us. So welcome to the league. Great to have you here. And it'll be nice to have an active Saints. It's been a bit of a cursed franchise, but there are definitely cursed franchises that have had an opportunity to turn around here. So we'll do an in-depth view of your team probably in the next pod or two, depending on how deep we get into the 3rd round or how fast we're willing to get to the power rankings. We'll make sure we do kind of an expose on your team as part of the material there, because we've done that for other new owners as they've joined the league. So, but for now, welcome, and damn you for not trading any of your 2nd-round picks to me.
So for the conspiracy theorists out there, for those that weren't around, it used to be Saints and Bucks were the same owner. With what was going on,
they were just related.
So, all right, just related. Definitely not the same owner. New Saints brought to us by a division mate in that division. Again, not Bucks this time. So there's another potential. I'm kidding, but he does know somebody in that division. Just to get the theories going. Just gotta seed the thoughts.
Why do you have to scare me like that, especially when Giants is coming on?
Giants.
It's an old guy.
Howdy. Sorry, I missed all the earlier fun.
Nope, all good. We are in the middle of the 2nd round here at the 2:15, just talking about the Saints' first pick of Sam Williams, D-end at Dallas. It's a classic Dallas pick in terms of the actual NFL draft. Player that probably could have gone higher, but because of character concerns fell. But a lot of opportunity to really step into the role on the edge there. I
was impressed by that pick for a brand new owner coming in and taking a DE, who I had on my short list coming up. So I thought that was a pretty good pick for a new guy.
Yeah, I figured, Chris is somehow managing the team. I can't prove it yet. But,
I like the league. I need more of it.
Yep.
I'm gonna come on camera just to say that I like this pick, because this is probably gonna be the last Saints pick that I actually like of the evening.
Oh man, and we had such positive vibes for a second there. Anyways, but yeah, I like the pick. I think it's the right value to take a guy like this. It's gonna be important to see where he lines up. I think the league had him listed as an outside linebacker at first. MFL on Crack has moved him back to D-end, so we'll see if he stays there, if he goes back to outside linebacker at the next change. But if he stays at the end and he plays at the end and he gets run at the end for the either the Cowboys or frankly even gets run an outside linebacker. There's enough tackles in that system and opportunity in that linebacker backfield to really put up some points in their first year. Probably not top 2 linebacker there, but definitely enough that he's going to get used a couple of weeks.
I'm pretty sure they're a 4-3. I think he's going to stay at end. I'd be shocked if they. He was like a pure pass rusher, I think, in college.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Panthers. I'm going to admit this is going to be one of the first ones that I'm going to raise my hand and say I don't know a ton about. So Kyle Phillips going here. If I look at the positions and where he went, he was a 5th-round pick from UCLA going to Tennessee. So I don't know. I don't know as much about him as a prospect. Definitely the landing spot's probably quite good, but I don't know. Someone else help me out with this one.
Can't. I don't like it. It's like 2 tiers too high.
But that's been his whole draft.
Yeah. There were still guys available that were
better.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
in 2 years, we can look back
opportunity.
at this Panthers draft and be like, he just knew something we didn't. Or, or he just had his guys and he's like, I'm just going to grab my guys at the picks that I can get and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
We'll keep moving then. So next pick is Cardinal. Sorry, I jumped ahead of myself here. Texans taking Josh Pascal. Texans really seems to be focused in on the defense with laser-type precision. Taking Wyatt earlier in the second, Pascal here, lining up as the second defender off the board, second D lineman off the board, potentially lining up on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. So, again, if Hutchinson's going to be a potential of the pass rusher of the two, Pascal's going to have to kind of set the edge and play a little defense there. So I can both talk myself into the pick of him being opposite a great pass rusher like Aiden and going to get some beneficial looks as a result. But if he's got to set that edge, then I can see that being a big problem.
I mean, he's going to be the third pass rusher because they still have Aquara, right?
Yes.
I guess we'll see in a couple of years.
Yeah. Draft capital kind of tells you that they at least think highly of him. Maybe a project, but I can see him at least being in the rotation this year.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's not a bad player to add.
Not at all.
Giants up next. So I know there was some controversy here, but hey, taking the NFL draft 201 at 218 at a position of value, at least for now, I don't think it's a bad pick, even though apparently powers that be have decided that he's going to be a D tackle. I could see it going either way, but you made the pick. What do you think?
Didn't those powers to be tell us that some other linebacker was going to be a defensive end and it didn't happen?
Was this when I was ignoring you guys in the chat? It might have been.
Probably.
Yeah.
Isn't that like every other day?
Yeah.
For the most
Yeah,
part.
I think. I mean, the talk from Tampa Bay is he makes the re-signing of Sue unlikely, and Sue was classified as a D tackle. Now, you could argue that classification probably wasn't correct since he was technically playing 3-4 end, and what's his name? The big boy was actually the D tackle for them.
Vita Vea playing nose tackle.
Yeah, exactly. So it could unfortunately work out, I guess, where he gets tagged as a DT. But he's a pass rusher, through and through. I mean, they're trying to bulk him up to even just get to a 3-4 end weight.
Yeah. Again, I think that's from a size perspective. The technique they want him to play, it's a 3-4 end. Granted, many defenses like to classify their 3 linemen as a D end, a nose tackle, and a D tackle. So from that perspective, he may, by technical definition, be a D tackle. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know for sure.
I don't. I could see him staying a defensive end, and just I don't see him being regarded as a defensive tackle in any way.
Yeah, it's just not really like his body type and repertoire.
Yeah,
He's
so
not like a run stuffer. That's just not his game.
Like if he's going to be a defensive tackle, then Joe Tryon's going to be a defensive tackle because they're built exactly the same, and Tampa Bay probably plans on just alternating them at either spot, depending on who succeeds where, especially in training camp.
Yep. All right, moving along to another Panthers pick that. Yeah, again, I agree with you, Giants. I think I said it in the first pod, and I cannot help but agree with it more. Panthers is either going to come out of this draft smelling like a rose or have a bunch of guys that he's trying to flip to 3rd or 4th round picks next year. Bernard
Damn, I didn't go that far.
he just doesn't. He's a depth play in the Buffalo defense, which is a good defense, but a depth play who's pretty well blocked. I don't think he's going to end up as an end, so part of the pass rushing committee doesn't make a lot of sense. I think he's pretty well buried at linebacker, so I don't think that makes a ton of sense. And the undersized aspect of it is he needs to be used in a certain role. So he's going to be a special teams contributor, so we'll get some points for that, but it's going to be a couple years before he gets on the field. And I think that's a 3rd round pick. Like a 3rd round pick that you have to sit on for a year or two before he pays off, fine. Middle of the 2nd round, it's just too early for me.
Yeah. I think we could just like copy and paste this statement for most of Panthers picks.
I think the idea for Buffalo is for him to probably take over who's the other linebacker? Take over Milano's spot.
But Milano has a good contract in place. Like he's not going anywhere.
And he's really productive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's argument that Milano's the better linebacker of the two between him and Edmonds from what they actually bring to a real life.
That's fair.
Perspective for the Bills. Edmonds obviously like he's still only like 24. He's been in the league like 22 years, and he's still got the upside play there, like with all his just natural gifts. But yeah, I don't see them doing anything other than Edmonds and Milano for the next couple of years in Buffalo.
Right.
I mean, at least for guys that get a large amount of playing time in their linebacking crew.
So barring an injury, that's at least my thought. So yep. I know I'm not supposed to be the negative person, but sometimes I have to play the role. So this will be a good conversation one because I think we already heard that RJ may not be the biggest fan of it, but I kind of like the pick. So especially for the position Saints is in. So RJ,
I love this pick.
RJ, why do you hate Jelani Woods?
I don't hate Jelani Woods. I just hate using a 2nd round pick on a tight end that's probably not going to see playing time outside of like a random tackle here or there on special teams.
Okay.
What?
Who's like on the depth chart that you think is going to keep him off the field?
Still there?
Mo Alley Cox is still there,
yeah.
And Granson's still there because he was a rookie last year, and he was, if I'm not mistaken, drafted just as high.
That is not an inspiring list.
Yeah, but I mean, like Granson was behind a very uninspiring list last year, and look what happened to him.
So again, Chris, I'm with you on this one. I'm impressed by the measurables of Jelani. I think he's got a lot of potential there. I think he's playing with a quarterback who has shown a proclivity for tight ends in a offensive system that has featured tight ends. I think that he's going to be he's going to take some time to adjust. I don't think he's going to be anything higher than the tight end 2 really this year. So he'd have to jump Granson. I don't think he's going to see a ton of targets. Maybe it's 20 to 30 this year, but it's going to be getting used to things and kind of growing in the system. And it's a potential receiver they have on the cheap. So I like the pick. I like the upside of the pick, and I like taking players like that in this range.
I would so much rather have Woods here than McBride at 119.
Oh yeah.
Like Woods is not that far behind McBride for me in this TE class. And again, like Mike, you said, from his measurables, and the tight ends just in general have a horrible hit rate just across the board when people are trying to draft rookies. So like if I'm looking at them, I'm going for measurables and their situation, potential playing time on here. And I think he's landed in a well above average situation on this. And I like the pick a lot. I think I like the first Saints pick. I like this one. Might agree with RJ on the rest of them, but yeah, these first two I liked a huge amount for that team.
I like the player. I think I would have tried to wait it out. I don't know that he would have not been there at his next pick.
Every possibility. So
I'd much rather Saints have Woods than Steelers. I'll put it that way. Since Steelers took another tight end right behind him.
Yeah, this one was a bit of a head scratcher for me. Greg Dulcich. Again, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Higher grade in terms of at least how ESPN is doing this. This was a position. This is such a luxury pick for the Broncos. I don't know why they went this direction. They traded Fant, so they needed to get another tight end. So the thought is, okay, Alberto in front of him, but he's got a clear path because hasn't seen as much playing time as a starter as, say, a Fant does. So I see the path for the field. And getting a tight end with a clear path for the field at this point in the draft, I get. I just don't see Dulcich being the guy there. And frankly, with the receivers they have, I think a tight end is going to be used more in terms of inline blocking than pass receiving. If you want to use the skills that Russ has best and letting him cook. So that's why I'm hesitant about the player. I get it, draft capital and otherwise, but I just don't love the player. Chris, what do you think?
I agree pretty closely with you on this one. I don't have a huge amount else to add around that. Yeah, I don't have much else for this.
Wow.
I feel like his landing spot was just torpedoed his value, in my opinion.
I like the Saints pick a lot better than this one. I don't hate this. I don't hate the this player position. But yeah, it's still I could take plenty of other things over a tight end with that kind of an opportunity in the second round.
All right. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun these next 3 picks because if you were playing the game, keep, trade, and drop, I think we can all agree who the drop would be. And that's probably the next pick here, Keonta Ingram. I think the nicest thing I can say about him is he's on the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have Connor as their lead back, and then not a lot really established behind him. So there's a chance, but I don't like the back. I don't like the draft capital. He's on the Cardinals. That's the nice thing I can say about him.
In fantasy is a game of opportunity. Connor's been healthy for like one full season in the last 3 or 4 years. I could see it popping, and if you just need to get a running back on your roster, but I agree is would not have been the running back that I would have gone with at this point with who was left.
Good. Chris, RJ, thoughts?
He's the fourth string running back in Arizona. And I mentioned, Benjamin before had like 40 snaps his rookie year, and that's probably what's going to happen with Ingram.
Yeah. Again, I just, like I said, not a fan.
I don't hate it long term. I just there's going to be no production this year, probably no production the year after, and then he's most likely going to be on a contract year if he isn't released already, and he's going to be forced to produce, and at best his role will be the secondary running back.
Yep. So of the 3 picks, the second one is my favorite. I've been a Pierre Strong Jr. fan since pre-draft. I think he got the right measurables. I think he's a small school guy who could pop. And again, from a landing in New England's not ideal, but I don't see a back in front of him that's like, holy shit, he's got to jump over this part. So Damian has had 2 years to take that role by storm. And when Ramondre came out, everyone thought he was a fullback. And those guys basically shared the duties last year. I think Bill likes to grab players who either have an elite skill or he can use in a plethora of situations. And I think that Strong falls into that second one. He's got the size, the speed, the breakaway ability, and the receiving chops that he can really play the right role there, either as a complement to his lead 2 backs or as a guy that jumps them and by the end of the season is their top back. So I know we've shit on a lot of Panthers picks, but I really like this one.
This is Shane Vereen. Just hopefully he stays healthy.
It's James White. It's the next James White. Come on.
No, I don't know if he's that capable in the passing game. I just think he's going to get a handful of good attempts, targets. They're just going to put the ball in his hand probably 7 to 10 times a game, and sometimes he's going to have 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, and sometimes he's going to have 37 yards and a fumble.
All right, so let's see. He had last season 240 rush attempts for almost 1,700 yards and 18 touchdowns, 22 receptions on 28 targets for 150 yards. Again, was South Dakota State. BMI's in the bottom quartile. Older for the position, but ran a sub 4.4, has a pretty good, speed score. Like I said, of these 3 picks, Strong is the guy I like the best and would build around. Ingram's the guy I'd cut. We'll talk about Thornton here in a second, but Strong's been a target of mine because of the small school aspect, and the guy I've been trying to get in the 3rd round of regular drafts pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so as mentioned, when Bill drafts a player, he's either looking for an all-around player you can use in a multitude of situations or an elite skill. Tyquan Thornton has an elite skill. It's called speed. Let me look him up since I'm already on the site here to get the information here. Ran a 4.28, fastest at the combine, 6'2", 183 pounds. Guy's just going to stretch the field. So I think it was a good point in chat the other day that Bill doesn't have the best track record recently about drafting receivers. Much better grabbing them in restricted free agency or unrestricted free agency or undrafted free agents and kind of building from there. But he's got the elite skill, which is speed. And considering what they have in Jacoby Myers and some other players and what they could bring to the table, the 2 tight end situation, I could see a lot of creative ways that Bill can use a guy like Thornton, but he's got to get on the field.
Yeah. I don't have very high hopes for him. But I, you know, the speed, the height, like you hope that turns into something. I was kind of shocked by the pick in the second round, like in the actual NFL draft. I guess this is fine because, like, after this, you go to a whole another tier of wide receiver that I am very unsure of. At least with him, he'll get an opportunity similar to N'Keal Harry. Let's hope it just doesn't turn out the same way.
Yep. And again, different types of player and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
All right. Next pick, I think a lot of how I feel about this player is going to be actually, I'm torn. So I'll let somebody talk about Nick Bonito first. Who has a strong opinion on Nick Bonito?
Nope.
Okay. Fantastic.
I don't think very highly of him. I think we talked about it off pod. He's one of those players that I acknowledge the draft capital for him, but he could easily be beat out by somebody else.
So here's the thing I'm not sure about him. So he's obviously going to line up at outside linebacker just because of the system that the Broncos run. I'm concerned people are going to look at this and say, "Oh, he's Von Miller's replacement," and fly off the handlebars. And I don't think he's that. And Brad Chubb, he's opposite Brad Chubb. He's going to get all the opportunities. I don't think he's that. I just don't know what he is. And because I don't know what he is, I don't know how to value him. So probably undervaluing him. He's a second-round linebacker. Denver's first pick in this draft. They go with Bonito. So it should say something there. But because I can't value him because I don't know what he is, I don't feel confident about this pick. And again, that's BS. That's probably BS or half-ass analysis. But sorry, I'm doing this for free. That's what you get.
So was this not the guy you were trying to trade up since like 207?
No. I was trying to get the next guy.
Okay.
Because there is no good reason Jordan Davis is falling this far. None. Now, I get it. 340 pounds, huge defensive tackle. Everyone's thinking this guy knows he's not going to, he's not going to put up points. Sure, it's a useful NFL player, but not going to put up points. The thing, I watched a lot of tape on a lot of Georgia players before the draft. And the reason I took Trayvon Walker where I did was because if you realize what the players are being asked to do in the system, you understand why they had the stats they did. Trayvon Walker had 8.5 sacks at Georgia. And everyone's saying the first overall pick only getting 8.5 sacks and he's going to play edge. What the hell are you thinking? Well, it's because he wasn't allowed to rush a running back because he had to set the edge. He set the edge, had edge responsibility with the idea to funnel things back so that the linebackers can make the plays. His job wasn't to rush the passer. That's why he didn't have sacks. Jordan Davis, based off of the way that they played in Georgia, was responsible for basically 2 gaps every play. So if you're playing a 2-gap system, you're not trying to push the pocket or get in there. Now, when you're next to Fletcher Cox, that's going to change. And the way that Philly plays defense, that's going to change. So when you have the physical prowess and the ability to push the pocket and the gifts that Jordan Davis has with what he already brings to the table as a run defender, the sky's the limit. So I love the player. I love the spot. I love he gets to learn next to Fletcher Cox. And I was trying to give up draft capital and would have given up more to get in there and get him. But finally he goes, and good for Texans for adding another good defensive piece. So every year there's a couple of teams who acquire a ton of second, third round picks and I feel like waste their powder on them. And again, as much as I loved the Jets first round, I might love the Texans second round even more. I mean, if you take a look at what he's acquired on defense, and he's got a lot to build. So maybe this is kind of the participation trophy of awards here, but DeWyatt at 208 with the potential of him being at the end. Josh Paschal, who is a second-round edge, who's going to be in the rotation and very well could get some serious time in Detroit in a defensive-minded coach. And now Jordan Davis at 226, who I think is the best defensive tackle in this draft, bar none. So say what you say about the positions, but you get more points for sacks and everything else as defensive tackles. So I'll go ahead and take those with a grain of salt because I love the player. I love the pick for the Texans.
I think just to play devil's advocate, things I've heard is that he's going to be a 2-down D tackle usually. So he's not going to get a ton of pass rushing opportunities. And they have a pretty deep defensive tackle. There's Hargraves as well, right? Is that the
Yep.
Yeah, he's the second DT next to Cox there, who's a monster in himself. And not to throw it out of my own team, but like Milton Williams, even the rookie from last year, is also like a pretty solid D tackle as well. So I think there's going to be a snaps issue at least in year one.
Yeah. And again, I think Cox from both a cost and an age perspective is probably his last year. So even if it is a year before he gets the volume he needs to be a top player, I think I take the over on 100 points for him his rookie season. And I wouldn't bet against him being a top 15 D tackle by the time his rookie contract's done. So getting that at this point in the second round, I think is worth it. So, I'm obviously higher than others, and that's why I was trying to trade up for him. But that's just, I like the player. Okay, enough about me glowing about my buddy Jordan Davis.
I like it long term. I don't know if I like it. I don't like it this year, but long term, it's probably one of the better picks. Still, it's the late second round, so I guess it's acceptable. But defensive tackle in the second round.
All right, so this one, again, player didn't know a ton about him. I'm learning as we go here. Leo Chanal, off-ball linebacker, inside linebacker going to the Chiefs. They clearly prioritize their defense this draft, which is good because they need to prioritize their defense. I feel like just the linebacking core in Kansas City, if you say you know what's going on there, I'm going to call you a liar, or you need to get your ass to Vegas right now. Because I'm not smart enough to know how this linebacking core is going to shake out between I think it was Gay 2 years ago. Forget who they took last year, and now
Nick Bolton.
Now Chanal, and other pieces they've added in. I just don't know who's going to get position time where and what this is going to look like. So I applaud them for continuing to add talent and depth to the position. They needed to, but from a fantasy perspective, I don't know about this one.
I think, just looking at the template that Gay and Bolton showed, they're not going to get a lot of playing time, a rookie linebacker, until the end of the season. I like their linebacker room. I like all three of those players. They're fast and it's a crowded linebacker room. I don't know if that, at this stage though, like all the linebackers that are left, they're mostly in crowded linebacker situations. So it's really just, which do you think is a better opportunity for snaps?
Yeah, I think it ultimately came down to like personal preference. This isn't my preference of the linebacker that I would have taken, but I think any of the ones in this, in this tier, are all just fighting to get a chance. He'll get some looks. Just hope he does something with it. But I'd imagine history repeats itself with Kansas City linebackers.
Yeah. All right. Next two picks are back-to-back to Steelers. Two guys who I think are going to not see the field immediately, but are in the right situations to surprise folks of how fast they see it, or completely miss. I know I kind of covered the gamut there to make sure I don't miss my analysis on this one, but let me explain. Right, I like him in terms of the DNs in this area for pass rushing skill set. I think he's got the ability to get on the field and make an impact in his rookie season more than most of the other DNs we've had in this area. That said, I don't know if he's got the potential to continue to develop to be a regular starter for the Browns. This is not going to be a Clowney replacement. It's not someone who's going to walk in and jump in over Winovich or some of the other ends in the room. But I think he's got the potential to get a shot and get the starting role by the end of the year, or fall down and be a deeper part of the rotation. Danny Gray is for his second pick. 49ers are going out and trying to acquire speed. That's what they've been doing all offseason. Is they say they know Lance is their guy. They know Lance gives them a skill set in terms of their arm, of being able to stretch the field. And Gray has that speed, and he's got the yak potential, the ability to catch it, put his foot in the ground, and go. So this is not somebody who's the size of Debo or Brandon Ayuk, not the same type of player, but probably a good starting fourth receiver with Jennings, Ayuk, and Debo there to be able to still get the ball to 10 to 15 yards down the field and then go, or hit him on the go route because he's got the speed to burn if the safety doesn't give the over-the-top look that he needs to. So I like the pick, but again, we're talking about a fourth receiver in best-case scenario. So that's my thought on both these guys. Brandon, do you want to jump in first?
Who was the first player? Oh, right. Yeah. I
right.
thought, I mean, both of them were on my kind of like watch list for this area. I've been trying to trade up to get a pick towards the end of the second round. I like Wright as just defensive end is starting to get really light in the draft. And he's going to play when he plays next to Myles Garrett, which is always an opportunity for, one-on-one situations, which is attractive. And then Danny Gray, various like people that I have listened to, podcasts and other media, liked him a lot coming into the draft. So he was kind of on my like watch list for like see where this guy lands, and have in mind for these second and third round. I probably would have gone with a receiver. I would probably would have gone with Velus Jones over him personally, but yeah, I think if the Trey Lance era is going to be a little more taking shots down the field, you want that Shanahan shot runner on your best ball lineup. I think it's a fine pick.
I don't care about the Alex Wright pick. He's probably going to get a chance to start. You're 100% right. Just a very, it's not a flashy pick. Doesn't really appeal to me. The Danny Gray pick, I agree with Brandon. I probably would have went Velus in that spot. I don't hate the pick. There's not very many wide receivers that you can really like after after Thornton went off the board. So there were very few. So Gray's fine.
All right. Speaking of, next pick is Velus. So, again, from where we are in the draft, nobody is without their warts here. So, I'll add that as the opening comment I have here. But I'll let others talk more about Velus. But it's opportunity. But the fact that he had to take as long as he did to show what he did, I like a lot of things he can do, and I know everyone's kind of looking for their Debo, but this ain't it. You guys go ahead and talk about him because you like him better, but this is not my guy.
I mean, he's like 46 years old, so like that's already the first negative for him. I'm not a huge fan of the player. I agree with you. I don't like super seniors. If you couldn't get it in the first 4 years, why can you all of a sudden get it in the 5th year or later? But the opportunity is fantastic because he has straight trash in front of him.
Yeah.
Well,
like those
I wouldn't say that.
wide receiver is a stretch to call any of those guys other than Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
ESP is there, right? Or
Who? Yes, he is.
Yes. And,
The
and
failed-
Byron Pringle.
The failed St. Brown brother, yes, he's there.
again,
And the chip.
again,
The greatest UDFA from 2018.
Okay, fantastic. So the best thing we can say about him is it took him forever to pop at Tennessee, and he's playing for the Bears, who have nobody at receiver. Excellent.
It's all opportunity. Again, like fantasy is a game of opportunity. He's 25, so that kind of sucks. Basically, his rookie contract is going to be the height of his value for our entire league. But if he's the number 2 option or number 3 option on the Bears, a team that's going to be behind a lot because their entire team sucks, I'd take it. And he returns kicks, so that matters in our league.
I don't know. So, James, welcome. I apologize if all the shit talking, said, get me off my chair and get me in this game because you all don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Spent some time with girlfriend's family tonight. Just got home. But I've been listening on the way back. I think my biggest thing to note is there's barely any positivity at all about the second round. I haven't heard much good said about just about anybody since I've came in.
It's the player haters ball. We're just hating on everybody. I try to throw a little love at Jordan Davis, and I'm getting shot down. So if you've got some, you just spend time with your in-laws, so or your girlfriend's family. So I don't know if you've got any love to spare or positivity to spare, but we'll take it.
I definitely do. Going back to the Jets pick, the running back, San Fran has always been this zone run scheme, but they did draft a power guard in this draft, which fits more, Davis Price's scheme. I feel also later in the season, you're a 49ers fan, you watch them change up the run game a little bit to integrate more power game to it. I think that he definitely plugs in and plays a role there, especially if Trey Sermon can't get out of the doghouse. The Sam Williams pick is definitely more of a long-term pick. The Saints owner is actually a friend of mine. I'm the guy who got him in. That can be an inclusion there. But we're both big Cowboy fans. And when it comes to that, Dan Quinn has said essentially since he met this guy in his first interview, he loves him. So we'll see how that pans out. Past that, there's just been a lot of hate on a lot of the guys. I can see how some of these people are going to be good. Some of them aren't going to be good. The Leo Chanal, the big thing about that guy is he's an absolute physical freak. I'm not sure what role he's going to take in Kansas City, but I'm pretty sure he'll beat someone out for one of their jobs, and he'll be taking snaps by the midpoint of the season from one of them. One of the already established guys there. Jordan Davis, I agree with you to a point. He's going to get more pass rushing opportunities. I'm not entirely in tune to what his snap count percentage was at Georgia, but it's just hard for me to see a 340-pound man playing every third down.
Again, I don't think it's going to be rotation to start. But again,
I heard all these conversations about size with Vita Vea and how he was a big terrible slob, and I don't know. He seems to be dominating the NFL, so I'd imagine same thing will happen.
Yeah, I get that. I watched a lot of Vea, and the Pac-12. That dude they played a 3-3-5 because he literally just dominated There wasn't a team in the pack that could run against him, and they were double and triple teaming him at times. And he never came off the field, like ever. That was one of his big things. Jordan Davis at Georgia, they had a little bit more of a rotation. They did have a little bit more depth, but he did play, from what I had watched, this significant amount of snaps. But I'm just not. He is a little heavier than Vea.
I agree with him not playing like extended snaps or anything like that. But I think it's going to be more of a working him in and him just ultimately taking over for Cox. Sorry. Yeah.
But I agree with you too, RJ, on your comment. It's a D tackle and it's the second round. Like last year, I put up the 7th most D tackle points in this league, and I invested a couple fourths into it in a trade and had crap at D tackle and was still top 7 in points. It's just not a position I feel you need to invest in to get anything out of.
Yep.
There's a few guys.
Well, it's biased, just but there's so many like impressive defensive tackles that don't relate to fantasy, like players that just dominate the field but they don't accumulate stats, and that's that's one of the problems. Like you can't so like yes, this guy may be a monster in the NFL, but he might only get 15 tackles and like 5 tackles for loss and a sack or 2, but like just dominate the field.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing, honestly, in that selection just is when it comes to the 128, you go back to that. When it comes to the Nakobe Dean gets to go and play behind Jordan Davis, and he had a lot of success at Georgia doing that. I think that's probably the biggest impact Jordan Davis has, is just he makes Nakobe Dean significantly better.
I mean, if you look at the projections for Nakobe Dean from Fantasy Sharks, you get drunk off those projections.
Speaking of drunk, this old fashioned is amazing.
I
poured a very large drink tonight. I'm in a good mood. I got nothing else to do than talk on here and then talk to you guys after, and then decline terrible trade offers.
Nakobe Dean, 100 tackles, 65 assists, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and a pick.
That's first team All Pro type of stuff.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, those are crazy stats. But also had your DN getting 16 sacks, so they're
they've went back on their projections. It's now only down to 14 sacks. And
14
tackles.
Oh wow, yeah, crazy.
What about Wanham? Does he still have 30 sacks next year?
Probably the backup defensive end and
Minnesota.
Outside linebacker now.
Oh, is he? Oh yeah.
Yeah, they changed him and Hunter. That's a tragedy.
But
I wonder why the Vikings fan was trading him off earlier in the offseason.
You guys read into too much of what I do. I really have no plan. It just works out well for me the majority of times. I don't know how.
Sorry,
I think we should give James
the Heat Boston game on, which is just fascinating. Just defensive basketball here. Every time I look up, someone's blocking a shot. It's like that's not what you normally see in Eastern Conference Finals. Anyways, that's not a basketball podcast. Speaking of Vikings, 231, Rams taking Brian Asamoah. So I think it's a surprise pick in the draft. I like it for what the Vikings needed and were doing. They needed to add depth and at the position, and they addressed it in free agency. He addressed it in the draft. He's probably, I'd say, a year or two away. But I like the player in that scheme, and he's the kind of player that can work his way in on the outside, I think, even earlier than if he had to wait and go through the inside. So, Chris, Vikings fan, thoughts?
I like the pick. There is a lot of uncertainty with the Vikings past this coming year. So if you don't have him, I know people picked up, I don't know who owns Surratt in the league right now. I was looking that up just now as we're going through. Seahawks own him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had some trade offers with Surratt a while back.
So Surratt went early third last year, very similar type of situation where, I mean, Minnesota's ran again, their entire defense is switching up this year, but in the past they've always ran 2 main linebackers. And I don't know what it's going to look like going forward. I mean, it's full new defensive scheme. It's new ownership. It's new coach. So I don't have quite a bit of inside knowledge as I would like to think I've had in the past. But I like the pick here at this point in the draft. I mean, if you're willing to wait on guys like that, that's where you make your profit, a couple years in the league down the line, because you extend them before they get expensive. They haven't produced yet, and then you end up with somebody like Brooks that is a top asset in a league like this.
Yep.
I think the opportunity is a little bit better this year than maybe Surratt had last year.
Yep.
But I do agree this is more of a long term, and I love it as a long term play. I have no issues with it being late second.
Yeah,
I don't think you were getting a better linebacker.
No.
Like as far as opportunity, a few years down the line.
This is the linebacker I would have taken before the KC Leo Chanal. Hicks and Kendricks. I mean, they're both like 30, and those are the 2 linebackers ahead of him for the 2 middle linebacker spots here. I think this was a really, really solid pick. He was on the top of my list for like the last half a round.
I don't think much of him as an actual player. Athlete, he's great, but he got lost way too often actually playing. He's definitely a little bit of a project, but he's got plenty of people ahead of him to where they can sit down and develop him. It's probably around the right place for him to go. Just not a huge fan.
All right. So the next couple here, ending the second round, Titans taking Cade Otton. So let's see. Is somebody who was positive on him start?
Is
No.
it positive?
Yeah, positive.
I don't know. He's a tight end.
That's correct.
Does that count?
He's playing with Tom Brady.
He's playing with Brady for a year.
He's on the same roster as Brady.
Gronk might not be there.
Gronk will be back. He can't not come back.
He'll just come back after training camp.
Yeah, Gronk's gonna just sign.
Mike, how high is the TV that you're watching? Like, it looks like you're tracking a fly, like going by as you're watching that.
It just moves.
It's about this far above the computer,
okay.
The lowest level, but it's a good sized TV.
Yeah, I watch you like full left to right as it was going.
Basketball, man.
It's basketball.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't have a lot to say about the guy. I don't see a lot of production in college. I don't see a lot that makes me think he's going to break out and be world ender at the next stage. But Titans is really excited about him. So you know what? Here's something positive. Getting the guy you're excited about. When there's a player on the board that you say, I see the trades people are making. Some might be good value, but I don't care because I want to take this guy. That's awesome.
He's definitely going to get on the field because he's probably a better blocker than Brady.
All right. So we made it, boys. We're into the third round.
We made it.
Panthers. So sell me on Calvin Austin.
Really twitchy, small kick returner. Not entirely sure what kind of role he'll ever be able to carve out at receiver and the actual offense itself. But kick returner, punt returner points, or people sleep on him. Ray McLeod was 50th in all receivers last year, and he's going to be the easy slot-in replacement for Ray. That's another thing about the Kyle Phillips pick earlier. They don't really have an established great returner there, and he was a pretty solid returner at UCLA, and he's also a very tough physical kid. And they run the ball a lot, so I see him getting on the field a lot early in the slot for Tennessee.
All right. No, and that makes sense. RJ, how does it feel to see James taking your stick?
I'm fine with it.
I mean, you've always been the guy who's gone after the underpriced players with returner upside, and James is beating you to it now.
You know, I can't get them all. Then I end up accumulating a whole bunch of wide receiver 4s.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
I liked the player a bit more prior to the NFL draft. I don't know. It's a very hard sell on undersized players like this, even as kick and punt returners. Like, my fear is he gets lit up, and then you don't have him for half the year, as he's got a broken collarbone. Some 280-pound guy absolutely leveled him. But again, I don't hate the pick, like where we're at in the draft. It's fine. It allows me to now attempt to trade up for other players I'd like that are still on the board, which makes it fun because everybody, like at this point, like everybody's always got odd valuations, but at this point in the draft, like you guys just said, like a pick ago or so, you go get the guy you like if you need to. So that, yeah, not full negative, just meh. A little bit of meh.
So speaking of guys that people
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of love about this next pick here. I'm not sold on it, but hey, he was a first rounder at a discounted position, but not a totally discount position. I think he's a little blocked, but again, by a 33-year-old player who isn't always the healthiest. So I don't know. He's a Viking, so Chris, why don't you start out?
I would have been fine seeing him go, I don't know, 14 picks earlier than here. He's put, I don't want to say it, I'm a bit of a homer. Like, he's almost my safety 2 in this class. In the fact that he's getting him at 302 versus wherever Hamilton went. What was that, like 120 something?
I don't think safety 2's a fine.
Is
124.
Am I not overhyping that too much? Like,
No.
he's like, from a fantasy perspective, like he's probably my safety 2, and the fact that he gets some.
Isn't he the safety 2 in terms of draft capital, or did someone else take a safety?
Safety 3, Hill. Daxton Hill went 1 pick before.
Somebody screwed up then in this draft. But so
No. He's talking about NFL draft.
Oh, NFL. Okay. Yep.
I meant our draft. Sorry.
Oh,
right. He is
draft.
safety
Okay.
2.
Yep.
Okay.
So the fact that he's going 302 and is probably like has just as good odds to put up, you know, the top points from a rookie safety. Like if you're a new person in the league and you're trying to figure out how to build a team, like this is how you do it. Like, you get the value at the position, you let the marquee player go early for top dollar, and then you pay 20 cents on the dollar and you still get, 95 cents of production out of that.
So I would argue that you could have waited another round and still gotten a safety for 90.
I don't believe so.
5% less.
I don't think so.
You're still going to. Like, it's still going to happen. We are going to praise some 4th-round safeties in this league who will actually be starters probably in the first half of the year.
Yeah, Andrew Wingard, I'm pretty sure went for like nothing, and he was.
I picked Wingard up off of free agency and got that, but you can't bank on that. Like, if you're at this spot in the draft, like, this is the type of pick that I'd be making here.
Well, that's the hill I'm willing to die on.
Yeah, it's definitely a good pick. It's a good pick, but it's just safety and D tackle are just like, and corner. All 3 of them just don't hold a lot of value. You can just take them whenever, and you can get something, and you can wait for waivers, and someone will win a job that was unexpected and get them from there too. Like, it's just not hard.
I disagree a bit on the safety position, but
it is almost devalued like the other 2.
Yeah, there are a few people like here and there that are worth like going after when you get the Jamal Adams, the Derwin Jameses, like the very solid guys. But obviously Kyle Hamilton to the Cowboys was worth it. I don't think he was quite worth it. I don't think
No.
any safety should really go in the first in this league. Like I think the early second is probably the highest anyone should go. And that has to be one of those players that were NFL draft capital wise, like top 5, top 10 player.
100% agree.
Yep, me too.
Like Lewis Sign he's definitely good, and I had interest in getting him because I just get to pair him obviously with the Tampa kid Winfield, and then I'm set at safety for a long time. It's just I can still wait, and with my 401 probably still get someone that maybe scores 30, 40 points less.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I agree. I think I don't argue the value of the pick at 302. I just think it's definitely a position. Like it wasn't even a need for Goose, right?
It's hard for us to like really talk about it because there are so many that haven't been taken.
Yeah,
like I can point to a whole bunch of them that like I would not necessarily take over him, but like value just is equally.
Well, again, I think that's the point we're getting to here is look, when we did the trade podcast earlier in the offseason, I think RJ went to 5 or 6 teams and said they need to trade a safety. Now we're in the draft and we feel great about Hamilton maybe being overpriced, Sign going here, and then a couple of other guys going later. So I don't know as much, but there seems to be quite a lot of depth at the position. That being said, it's a good pick and a good valuation to get a starter at this point. So I think it's a good pick. Georgia starter and a first rounder, so draft pedigree definitely playing a role there. But I think this is one of those things that there's parts of this draft that, and a lot of the hate that came in the second round is a lot of these guys feel like the second rounders feel like third rounders to me. But I think as soon as we get to the third round, we're going to start seeing a lot of guys who have the upside of second rounders. So it's going to be a very positive change of, hey, this guy absolutely could have gone in the second round. Chris's point, this guy could have gone half round higher. Like that's what I think we're going to see in a lot of this range of the draft is a relatively shallow difference between a guy who went at 214 and a guy who's going at 308 and saying pretty interchangeable to me. So that's going to be the value aspect of that tilts it in the player's favor. So I think it's a fine pick, a great spot to grab the safety 2 in the class. And I think Goose builds his teams on give me points per dollar. And the points per dollar on a player like this could be huge.
Yeah. Random topic. I just took a look at his team, and he has 5 first-round picks next year in 5 seconds and a bunch of other crap. And I need to go back and figure out what exactly he did to swindle that many picks with the squad he started with.
Well, I mean, good haul. Nothing wrong with it. He had 2.
I mean, he had Justin Jefferson and AJ.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right.
Right.
Makes
So
more sense.
That was like 4 of them.
That was the base of it.
But again, like a pick like this. So if he hits and puts up points, somebody's going to pay for him for more than what he drafted him for, and that's the Goose philosophy, because he does not have attachment to any player at all. So he'll just go ahead and flip him for a second. You know,
by how much of a profit is he actually going to get? Because I know some high-end safeties that could have been had in the offseason for slightly more than this, like proven.
If he puts up points, he's on the rookie contract. I bet you somebody pays a second. Next year, second.
I don't. I'm not like, and it wouldn't be an unreasonable pay because I mean it's an early third. Like it's one of those players that probably should have went in the second and fell.
Yep. And I don't know. It's a very slow process, but it's I'm not going to argue with it.
Yeah, my only thing was to temper though, like you're probably not getting a first out of it. Like
no, you're not going to get a first out of it. Well, I can't say that. You've seen what happens in
most
this league.
people probably are.
He is going to plaster the league now because you've said that. Because he's going to want to prove everything wrong and get that first.
He's
glad I don't
have
any firsts.
Right. His opening offer will be 2 firsts, and then people will think it's a good deal by backing it down to 1. And 9 months
you got
from now,
24 firsts coming your way after the draft, RJ.
Oh,
No,
God.
Chris, just don't even give me my first, so I don't have to see those trade offers.
big thing about it though is if you go to safeties and you just go to last year and you go the starter points by position, so it's the amount of points from all starting safeties for all of last year. The average was 290, and when it comes to the bottom half of the league still majority scored like 260 plus. So the difference between everybody and just being subpar to where you aren't really losing at the safety position every week isn't that big. So where the difference between the best and just the middle of the pack guys just really isn't much. Whereas if you go to other positions, it's rather huge.
It's a 3-point difference.
Thank you.
If you look at the top 32.
But then we're talking about drafting some. Never mind.
The opportunity cost of taking a high-end safety versus a shot in the dark receiver.
You're taking Cade Otton at tight end, which everyone hates.
Right.
The thing that's hated about that is he doesn't even have the draft. He doesn't have the cap space to even roster that guy. So,
yeah.
Who doesn't?
He drafted that player and doesn't even have the cap space for him. So he's going right back into the draft pool.
Basically, if we were keying in actual.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When we
salaries.
put the contract on him, he's going to be in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it would be a violation.
It's a violation of the bylaws. The bylaws state that if you don't have the cap space,
I understand what the bylaws say, guys.
I wrote the bylaws.
Do you understand?
So he just completely wasted a second.
Yep. So he's got time before it actually gets put into effect by. I'm not allowed to do any of the contract stuff for some reason. I'm not trusted with that, but he's technically got time before that gets
the way
Jeremy.
Yeah, I think that's why none of us.
The way it's stated in the bylaw, though, it's he has to have the money before he makes the pick. So it's already. Yeah.
James, you're right. If so backing up a little bit of history, our original commissioner would have been all over this, not because he was a attention to detail type guy, but the opportunity to be like, nope, going right back in there. That's not the current set of commissioners. That being said, we're not going to ignore the bylaws, but I think I'm still sitting there with Drake Jackson at 201 with no contract on him. I don't think we're going to see those guys getting contracts until tomorrow or the day after at the earliest. So if he's smart enough to say drop Landon Collins, free up the space he needs before it happens, he's probably going to be okay.
Gotcha.
I have Breece Hall at the 101. I don't have a contract on him.
What? Picker got a contract.
Happens.
Really not.
David Bell has.
No, he's got contracts.
How'd that happen?
Okay. Sorry, it happened today. I am wrong. I am the asshole in this scenario.
I was gonna say because Spiller and
do something for stupid. Drink or do something for stupid.
Oh, okay.
6.7 million. Wow,
Yep.
it's an expensive running back.
Yeah, not when you see his production at the end of the year.
An expensive running back too.
Ooh.
This is true.
Just dump him. I'll give you some things for him.
Yeah, you want Calvin
Anyway.
Austin, dude? I'll make that deal.
He'll save you from the contract.
My
All right, let's get. We got to get through the last pick here.
Goose heard,
So
Goose heard you wanted a safety, so it's a clear swap for here.
There we go.
Cameron
No, so,
Thomas, 303.
We actually are. So Goose and I talked. I'm sorry. Jesus. RJ, I'm going to drink for a lot of stupid right there.
Drink.
So we talked about Thomas when he got picked because the pick happened while we were on the podcast, but Chris, James, and Brandon weren't on. So if you guys want to talk about Thomas, by all means, I'm just going to drink for a minute here.
I don't know. I'm kind of out of strong opinions at the moment. So I like my drink. I'm not drinking because I'm stupid.
I think Thomas was, if I'm remembering my board correctly, he's like the last DE that I had that was like anywhere near worth like a second or early third draft capital. So it's a position of need for any team, and assuming he keeps that DE tag, which he should based on my understanding of the Cardinals defense. Last DE.
Yeah, I don't know. He's one of the guys that I felt was definitely a developmental project. But no, it's a great pick for the Jags. Just fit his team and to continue building around what he's already done.
I think I wasn't necessarily a big fan of it. I think it might have been a little bit early, but he is one of those guys that Mike said he has a great opportunity or a great route if the often injured J.J. Watt is injured at some point this year. But I mean, I think Bryn said it. He's the last true defensive end in a tier that I also like have him grouped in also. So like I can't hate it. At any point when you're grabbing the last guy in the tier, like you kind of have to feel good about that.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where we are. Cowboys is on the clock. Let's see if he's logged in anytime recently here.
And he will be for a while.
53 days.
Let's see. He is not currently on the clock. Everyone who's on the podcast is on the clock. Look at that. But 1 hour and 43 minutes. So it's been a minute, but he's a West Coaster, so I can imagine he'll be jumping on here and saying something in the near future. So anyways, we're on.
Can I say how nice it is
great
to have an activity log of all 32 people logging in the past week? It's refreshing.
It is.
It's nice to see the Saints not at the bottom of the list perpetually. And it's
50
nice
plus days and counting.
It's nice that Matt at least is making an appearance back in here. It's past 9:45 Central, and he hasn't told me he wants to join, so I'm a little sad. But maybe he'll make the post show.
There is a post show. There's always post show.
So should I tag the commissioners to process the trade?
I mean, since he's been on the podcast for the last hour and a half and hasn't done it, so
there's a trade.
Yeah.
Nobody told me there's a trade.
Well,
It's a trade.
I've been told by Jeremy you get an email notifying you. So even if we don't tell you.
1 second.
I like trades.
Can we get a spoiler?
Well,
I
we'll wait
see
for
no
it.
email.
All right. Well,
No, let me go look. Let me see if it's worth processing on.
Probably not. This is a garbage
Oh.
trade.
He is. God. Done.
all right. So good talk. See you out there. Enjoy the third round. We'll probably do a combined third, fourth, fifth round show. That'll go a little faster. Still have 2 hours or more of content, but thanks for listening and hope you enjoyed it. And again, to James' point, we'll try and be a little bit more positive next time.